Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Rep Path Podcast. Today, sorry guys, I know we're a little late. Of course, it's James' fault. He screwed something up in the back end, technical support. He wasn't very supportive. So
I was too busy making fun of your ridiculous haircut, Joe.
I didn't think anybody was going to notice, James. So,
Your balding blowout over here.
all right. So guys, we're not going to, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room right now, because I know some of you are probably checking the channel to see if you're on the right podcast. Yes, it's me. But I had my wife's birthday this weekend, and they had a 90s themed party. So I basically went back to my old school, 30 something years ago styles. And a lot of people back then had lines in their head, which you could see here, and then the heartbeat on the side. So I know I look ridiculous.
It fits medical sales, though, dude. The heartbeat.
Yeah,
It's really
exactly.
representing medical sales today.
Exactly. It was supposed to be
Stylish.
very medically sales directed.
It's the whole
But
reason. You're gonna get a big rep path symbol on the side.
yes. Well, the at the end of the day, though, I actually won the contest of being best dressed, so I was very proud of that.
You should have seen the out. You know what? I should have brought it up and showed the crowd, because it is pretty good. The Reebok pumps, the jeans down to the calves.
Long jean shorts. You don't know if they're shorts or pants.
Yeah, it's
The
great.
cross colors, everything, man. So
Great.
anyway, though, yes, guys, my hair will grow back at some point, but for now, I'm sorry, you guys got to stare at this for the next several
He's busy
weeks.
looking like a jerk off. Next couple of weeks.
Thanks, James.
You're welcome, dude. No problem. All you're missing is the rat tail. The rat tail would have really solidified the look.
Yes. So anyway, guys, but today's topic we're going to talk about is, once you get the medical sales job, you feel like you won, but it's only the beginning, guys. So today we're going to talk about what nobody warns you about in medical sales. That's not all doom and gloom. So don't get nervous thinking that, they're going to hit you with, from left field with, all these crazy demands. But it is, getting the job is only part of it. And we're going to talk about that today. But before we get into it, as always, guys, any questions, make sure you submit them into the chat. I don't want to waste too much time today because I know we're short on time. But Rep Path Academy, guys, go on reppath.com and sign up today. If you have any questions, click the link below. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, joe@reppath.com, or shoot me a DM on LinkedIn. I'll be able to walk you through everything on our website, which James is showing right now, and see those testimonials, guys. These are reps just like you that we're trying to break in. One of the things that we offer that no one else does, and that's to help you break into the industry. We will commit to you until you get a job. No one else is going to offer that, guys. They're going to give some sort of timeline. We don't care. We're that committed and that confident in our program. We know you're going to break in. It's just, how long that's going to take. That's up to you. But as long as you put the work in, we're going to commit to you till you get there. Lastly, if you want to see this podcast or any other content that we produce, please go on my YouTube channel, click the link below and subscribe. It's 100% free, guys. And you could get this recording and all the other content that we come out with. So, okay. So let's dive right into today's topic. Again, what no one warned you about in medical sales. First thing we all see, guys, we see the company car. We talk to reps. They talk about how they're working with doctors, how they make all this money. They just got a big commission check. They're in the field by themselves all day long. They don't have to work a 9 to 5. If they're done early, they're done early. A lot of these things are true, guys, and most of them are true. It is a great job. You are free a lot. You can go and come and go as you please for the most part. And you do make good money, but that's just the surface of it, guys. I mean, this is, there's a lot more to it. I'm sure we've all seen those pictures of an iceberg where everyone sees the tip of the iceberg and then they don't see everything else. The hard work, the commitment, the rejection, all the challenges that happen to get those results that, that's what everyone else only sees the results. They don't see all the hard work and everything else it takes. So it's similar to that, guys. But bottom line, like I said, to start today's talk, getting the job is just the beginning. When you just busted your ass for the past 6 months, your year to try to break into this industry, when you finally get a job offer, you feel like that's it. That, you finally broke in. It's only the beginning, guys. You didn't start working yet. Okay. So, as hard as it is to break in this industry, and it is very, very hard. I know a lot of you right now are like, wow, man, why the heck am I doing this? Is this even worth it? It's such a struggle. I'm not saying it gets harder or easier, but believe me, it's just the beginning. Once you break in, now the real work starts. Now the effort really starts to, see what, they really see what you're made of to be in this industry, because there's a lot of competitive, a lot of talented people out there that are on your team. And for a lot of these roles, you're competing with them for bonuses. You're competing with other reps out there, your competition, to get a bigger commission dollars. Everything is constantly, constantly competing. If you don't want to compete, do not, do not even think about this industry. If you're not a competitor, and I'm not saying someone that, I'm okay, win or lose, it's about how you play the game. That's bullshit, guys. That doesn't fly in medical sales. It's about winning. It is about being the best. The more that you win, the higher you're rated, you're ranked, odds are the more money you're making. Any company with a decent bonus plan or a decent commission structure, the more that you win, the more that you sell, that's how you make money. This isn't a job that hiring managers, directors, executives, they're not going to keep you on if you're not performing. So you always want to outperform everyone. That should be your mentality. You want to be number one. Number one means more money. It means success in this industry. So, like I said, that's when the expectations really begin, is when you get the role. It's going to feel like you just accomplished a miracle. It's going to feel like you just won the Super Bowl when you get a job. But again, that's just the start. Now you have to really start, producing. Okay. Because you can have one or two good quarters, feel great. You get one or two poor ones in a row. Trust me, those same manager that was praising you for months, they're going to be on top of you. And you're as good as your last sale, guys. You're going to hear that analogy all the time. You're going to hear that saying all the time. It's true. There's high performers. There's multiple President's Club winners. Just because you won a President's Club or two at a company doesn't mean the rest of your career is going to be a cakewalk. If you're not performing, they will let you go too. You have to constantly perform, guys. They're not going to ignore you just because you had previous success. You got to continue that success. So let's talk about that. We're talking about hitting quota. So the pressure of carrying a number, okay? You're going to see, guys, that quota follows you every day. Okay. A lot of you that go into this industry, you're going to be saying, well, I think I'm ready to be a territory manager. I don't want to be an associate. I don't need to, to be someone's assistant. I don't want to be a clinical specialist. I was a top 10, or I was in B2B sales for years. I know what it's like to carry that. Trust me, guys, when you get into this industry, I'm not saying people can't come in and become territory managers right away. It happens, and they're very talented individuals, because for the most part, you have to worry about so many things in medical sales. They always say you got to wear a lot of hats. Excuse me. And that's in many roles, especially any very challenging roles. But when you get into medical sales, the reason why I suggest, and a lot of times when I hired, I would like people to be an associate or a clinical specialist first, because you need to figure out so much clinically and become, get your clinical aptitude up first. And that's just one out of the dozens of requirements that you're going to need to be a high performing territory manager. So now you got to worry about the clinical aspects. You got to be good speaking to doctors, nurses, staff. You have to learn how to navigate hospital systems. It's not easy, guys. You don't just walk in and they're doing surgeries right there. There's usually many, different floors, departments that you have to go to. You have to learn the different departments. You have to learn the hospital buying process. And then you need to do all these things on top of learning your territory. Many of us, I mean, again, we have navigation. It gets easier, obviously, in this day and age, but you still have to learn how to navigate just certain traffic patterns. So you make sure you get to certain accounts on time and go from case to case. You need to do all these things, which are challenging. Now let's throw in a number. Now let's throw in a quota that you have to hit. Guys, it gets real quickly. Okay. You're going to be, you could work your ass off and still miss that number and be like, what the heck? I did everything. Excuses aren't going to get you anywhere, guys. They don't care. If your best doctor who does 50% of the volume in your territory goes on vacation and you don't hit your number, do you think you could just tell your boss, and his boss, oh, the reason why I didn't hit my number, my main doctor was away. But don't worry, he'll be back next month, so I'll be fine. So let's just not even count this month. It really doesn't count. They're going to
Joe,
go.
your excuse this quarter would be your haircut is why you didn't hit your number. I had to throw it in there. I had to.
Well, and again, it's fair because I'm already getting weird looks all over the place. So I totally get that. Now, if you do have a weird haircut like this, guys, you probably can tell your manager that it's your hair, and they'll give you a pass because obviously it's ridiculous. But thanks for bringing that up again.
If the manager doesn't send you home after seeing a haircut like that, like you're not seeing a doctor like that. You have the wrong manager.
Or you could just claim insanity.
Yeah, send you to the mental institution.
But anyway, but yeah, you can't make that excuse. They're going to say, okay, so how come you don't have a backup plan? That's why you need more doctors doing more cases in your territory. So the quota is real. And it is real, especially in medical device, where if you're not hitting your number, it's not going to be one quarter that they're going to fire you. But if you're not hitting your number a couple quarters in a row, trust me, guys, it is cutthroat that way because they know they have dozens and dozens of hundreds of other candidates that will do anything to get that job. And if you're not performing, again, you got it. You're not going to be there too long. So the pressure of a quota is real. Okay. They never let up with that. You hit your number one quarter, you're going out to dinner, celebrating with your manager. Everyone's praising you. You feel like on top of the world. You get awards, you get a big bonus check. All these things come in and you truly feel unstoppable. You know what happens at the start of the next quarter? Everyone goes back to zero. Everyone's number goes to zero. And then you got to hit it again. And what happens a lot in medical sales and, for every company, guys, they don't keep the number the same. They're always expecting growth. So that's going to be something that gets real quickly too. You're going to be like, wow, I had to do everything. I needed the stars to align in order to hit my number this month. How the heck am I going to grow another 15, 20% next quarter? I have no idea where that number is coming from. I don't know where they pulled it from. And you'll see this in medical sales a lot where everyone gets pissed off at the company and this is unfair. And I don't know what they're thinking. Again, the frustrations come out, but it doesn't matter. Bottom line, they'll tell you, don't do it. We'll find someone else that can. So you have to constantly, again, that's what I say. You carry that number every day. Believe me, it gets intense. I'm not saying that to scare anyone. I'm just being real. Okay. It's not for the faint of heart. You're not going to go in haphazardly each quarter, and take weeks off because trust me, that number is always going to be there. If you're not hitting it, you're not going to be there long. Next, guys, rejection. If you can't take rejection, then again, don't even think about medical sales. Rejection is so common that getting rejected is actually a good thing in comparison to not seeing a doctor. So for me, I know I talk about this all the time. Access to your customers in this industry, guys, is insane. It is very, very difficult to get in front of doctors. It's not easy. And I challenge all you young candidates out there that are trying to break into the industry, and some of you that don't have medical sales experience, start calling on doctors now, like today, like after this podcast. Go out and call in a doctor's office. Try to get in front of a doctor. Tell the receptionist you're here to see Dr. Jones and you'd like to discuss a new product with him, or just I'd like to meet Dr. Jones. Watch the looks you get. Watch the reaction that you get, right? You're going to see that they're going to be like, sorry, the doctor doesn't see reps. Sorry, he doesn't do that. She doesn't do that, and you're going to be like, what the heck? And do it over and over and over again, guys. And you're going to see how hard. Now, of course, it's easier once you have an actual product, you work for a company, but this does give you a good idea of what reps face, because a lot of times that's what they deal with. When you get in front of a doctor and a doctor says no to you, that's actually a good thing. Getting rejected by anyone in this industry, don't look at it as, oh, wow, I got rejected 10 times today, I must suck. No, that's a good thing. Rejection is good, because in this business, you don't get one shot and that's it. Now, of course, you want to always make a good impression. You can't go in there first time, and have a nightmare. You don't know anything about what you're presenting. You're rude to the staff and totally fumble the presentation. Yeah, you probably won't get a second chance. But for most normal reps out there, they could get rejected over and over and over again by the same doctor, because you'll see this a lot. Doctors, they love the product they're using. And for the most part, guys, they're right. In their mind, and they're not crazy. They know they're getting good results, and pricing, the rep that's covering that account is doing a great job. Everything is pretty smooth. Why should they switch? A lot of times you got to do a really good job convincing them on why they should switch when things for the most part are going well. And they have a million other serious things with their patients, their practice, their staff. They have real challenges going on besides just your product. To switch is a pain in the neck to them. So they're going to reject you over and over and over. The good thing is you could keep coming back. A lot of times doctors say, hey, Joe, I told you my nephew works at blah, 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 or Tom is a really good rep. We've never had any problems with him or his product. I'm never going to switch. I can't tell you how many times I've had that, guys. And you're not there to get them to switch today. It could be a process that takes a long time, because what happens in the long run, there typically is something that does go wrong, that their service may have lacked. You have advancements in your product, or your persistence where the doctor really isn't paying attention that much, but then all of a sudden finds a need for your product for a specific patient. Many different things can happen, guys. Bottom line, the rejection is part of the job. And when I mean rejection, again, you could get rejected 30, 40 times in a week by doctors, over and over and over. Not only by doctors, by office managers, by receptionists. It's become so common, but you do develop thick skin, and you should have thick skin if you want to get in this business. But trust me, as thick as you have it, it's going to get even thicker, because you're going to get used to that, and it just rolls off you. You don't get insulted. You don't go home and say, I suck. Maybe it's me. Guys, everyone goes through this, but you got to be prepared. You're not going to walk into offices just because you got a job and you work for one of the biggest companies in the world and think that everyone's going to be happy to see you. They're not. They're just not. Especially when you start, a lot of these offices, they don't give a shit. They've seen 30 reps today. You're just another annoying rep. What they'll do, again, they don't need to be nice to you. But I will say this, in time, you're going to develop relationships. You're going to keep adding value, and you're going to look back and go, wow, they wouldn't even allow me in this office 2 years ago. Now look, I'm best friends with everyone in here. I feel like I'm a part of the office staff. That's the goal. When you feel like you're really bringing value and becoming an asset for that practice, they feel and treat you like you're one of the staff members. And that's the place you want to be. Next, guys, you're always being evaluated in this job. Always they're always tracking your numbers. They're always tracking your activity. It's, sometimes it's paralysis of analysis, which, I can't stand. Sometimes there's some companies, they go a little too far into, tracking call frequency and call activity. For me, I feel, again, if I if I ran Pfizer, one of the biggest companies out there, of course, when you're dealing with thousands and thousands of reps, they gotta track activity and all those things. But at the end of the day, it's your results, guys. If you're not producing, who gives a shit how many doctors you're calling on? Who cares how late you worked? You got to produce. So you're going to have ride-alongs. Ride-alongs suck. They suck. I mean, sometimes you get good managers that they're fun to work with. They provide a lot of value. But I don't know about you. I've had a lot of amazing managers, learned a lot. We've had great ride-alongs. If you gave me an option, do I want someone to stand behind me, grading me, and making it awkward with my customers, or do I want to do it by myself? Yeah, of course. I want to do it by myself. But at the end of the day, guys, we're here to grow and learn. And a lot of times managers can become very valuable in doing that. Sometimes not so much. Sometimes it does get very awkward when you're in accounts and you got your manager behind you, because you'll see, and this is something no one else is going to tell you before you get in, there's this like fake sort of like almost like a skit going on where the doctor sometimes is being a little nicer because he knows your manager's there. He's agreeing to things that he never would normally agree to. He'll listen to the study that he doesn't give a shit about, and it's kind of like this little act that goes on where they don't want to be rude to you in front of your manager. And then there's many times where it's just very real. Managers come in, they provide a lot of value. But overall, the whole point is, guys, you're always being evaluated. If you ever live close to your home office, I did for a couple of different roles, and it could be good and bad. The good thing is you live close to the home office. So if you need something, if you need any support, sometimes you can drive and pick up material, whatever that may be. And any kind of training, you're not far from home. The challenging things are that once you're close to that home office, you're going to have not only your manager, but other personnel at the company that want to do ride-alongs with you. And that could be a pain in the ass because now you got people in your car. Sometimes, when I was at Oregon I was only 20 minutes from the home office. I had someone riding with me every other week. And, that gets annoying, guys, because a lot of times they're not hiring managers that are there to train you. These are people that are there to observe. And I don't know if any of you guys remember, James, I'm sure you remember in school when it was like, when you're like mother or father would come into school and observe, or the teachers have someone observe them in class and the teacher acts like a totally different person that day.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's just
or parent-teacher conference.
Yeah, exactly. But I used to laugh when they would, like, the principal would come in to observe the teacher, and you're like, holy shit! Like Mrs. Smith now all of a sudden is so nice. She's usually the biggest bitch, but now she's the nicest person because she's worried because she knows she's getting graded. So imagine doing that all the time. That happens a lot when you live near the home office, and it definitely gets a little uncomfortable with your manager. But the bottom line is this, guys: you're always being evaluated. And you gotta do everything in your power to realize that, because when you're in the car by yourself all day long, you feel like you're free, and you are, but you're not fully free. There's always people watching. They're always tracking you, whether it's your activity or obviously your actual results in your numbers. Next, guys, relationships. They don't happen overnight. Okay. You're going to do ride-alongs with reps. Sometimes they'll have you do a ride-along before you're hired, and you'll be with some stud rep and you'll be like, wow, everybody loves, Barbara. She's unbelievable. Every office you go into, everyone knows your name. And it seems like every doctor just wants to work with her. I'm like, no wonder why she's the best. Guys, that didn't happen overnight. Okay. That took a long time. Trust me, if there was ever footage of Barbara when she first worked into these offices, she was going to go through the same shit that you go through. It's what did you do to react to that? And the high performers, they don't crawl up into a ball and say, oh, I'm not going to go to that office because that doctor is always a bastard. I'm just going to stick to the offices that like me. And that's the wrong approach, guys, because you'll never grow. you'll never hit your number. You have to go into those difficult areas or those difficult offices to really make an impact. But it takes time. The whole goal is, and this is easier said than done, it's identifying your customers' key drivers and then providing value to whatever that is. Okay. Identifying it. They don't just come out and say, here's all my problems. If you help me fix this, I'll work with you every day. No. Sometimes they're not as open to tell you everything that the challenges they're going through. Sometimes they don't meet with you for months. So you can't even get in front of them to find that out. But at the end of the day, the more value you bring, the more that you're seen as an asset by those doctors and by their staff, that's when they're going to start working with you more and more and start building those relationships. Okay. Next, guys, your territory. Okay. This is very important because your territory matters a lot more than you think. There's no two territories that are alike, guys. It's almost like no two snowflakes alike. Same with territories. Everyone is different. That's why when I see candidates that have their 3-time or 4-time President's Club winner, and I'm supposed to be so impressed by that. Now, when you've been in the industry a long time, you're like, that's great. That's a great accomplishment. But did you take it over from someone that was a 5-time President's Club winner and that territory was always doing well? Are the reimbursements in that territory really, really profitable? And many doctors, that's why they love using XYZ product. Do you have doctors that are also on your speaker bureau that are in your territory? So a lot of times when you have good relationships with them, they could be more likely to use your product. There's a million different reasons that can make a President's Club territory, President's Club worthy. And it could straight up just be the rep. It's just an awesome rep that works his ass off and performs and provides value to all his customers. But the territory is very important. So when you're going in these job searches and you're having conversations and you're getting closer to getting an offer, you want to learn more about that territory. You could take over a territory that has no existing business. And you could say, okay, that could be good and bad because you have nowhere to go but up. But why isn't there any business? You could assume that, oh, no one had the territory before. What if they had the territory and there's still no business? And a lot of times, you'll get hiring managers that are honest, but sometimes you get them that they'll blame the previous rep and say, well, the previous rep really screwed everything up. So, we need someone in there that can make an impact and you could do really well because there's a lot of potential here. And then you get in the field and it doesn't feel that way. So you got to find out, number one, if you're in the hospital space or you're working in device and your product has to be on a certain GPO. And what if your territory, for instance, I was once consulting for a company and helping them work a rep in it that wasn't doing well, but it wasn't the rep's fault, to be honest with you. It seemed like it was. But then when you dug deeper, you noticed that this was a Jersey rep, that a lot of the accounts in New Jersey have HPG as the GPO for a lot of these institutions. And his company's product was not on HPG. It was on Premier, another GPO. So the hospitals that used Premier as their GPO, like a lot of New York City hospitals have Premier, or they did at this time. So they could actually use that product in those hospitals. This rep couldn't even get doctors to use the product because they couldn't get access to it because it wasn't on the GPO. But you didn't know that unless you asked those questions. So that's something that right off the bat, you want to make sure, can doctors use this if they want to? Are there reimbursement challenges? Do they have to get a prior auth? Now that's becoming more and more common now, but prior auths are a pain in the ass for doctors' offices. If they had the option of doing a prior auth or not, they would much rather not do a prior authorization because that is time consuming. So there's always going to be someone in the office that is in charge of prior auths. When you have the conversation with them, trust me, it's not the most glorious task to do because those are more phone calls, more work just to get a patient, a product or a drug. It's annoying. And if your product requires that and your competition does it, it's hard to compete. Okay, you need some clinical superiority for them to do that, but it's just another challenge that you have to overcome. So these are all things that do, you can change that territory. Again, customer relationships, the competition in the territory. Sometimes there's stronger, more competition, or they just have stronger reps. There could be a lifetime rep. I used to compete with this one individual from Medtronic that everybody knew. He was outstanding, and it was very tough to compete with. I mean, you used to go into doctors' offices, and I remember this one time going into one of my offices and see my competitor in his bridal party of one of the doctors. And you're like, oh, this is going to be fun. So he's been friends with this guy for 25 years, and the guy was in his wedding, which is in his office. And I have to convince him to use my product over his. Guys, that's real shit. Like we could sit here and find out, key drivers and all that all day long. That makes it much, much more difficult to compete with. But all these things do matter. So again, one territory doesn't mean that, there's no two territories alike. So you need to learn more about what you're getting into before you take the role about that territory. Okay. Next, guys, and then after this, James, we'll take the last 10 minutes to go and get into some questions because we have to cut early today.
You should suggest going into the doctor's office and doing a little b-boy dance out of your b-boy stance with a haircut like that.
Oh, I should have done like a wig background or something. That I wish there's got to be a setting.
You should have done the full getup, the full attire, full send 90s.
Yeah, because now it's awkward. At least it fit the clothing. Now when I walk around with normal,
true Italian windbreaker or something, like you're hanging out like a full tracksuit or something.
I have those too somewhere.
That's
in
what
my,
I'm saying.
in my
You should have busted that out at least.
Done
the
that.
Wife beater.
But last, guys, we'll talk about your managers. And guys, managers, they can make or break your whole experience at a company. A lot of times I hear reps, they'll reach out to me and they'll say, Joe, what's the best company? Who has the best company culture? You'll hear about company culture all the time. And to be honest with you, I don't really coach reps to talk about the culture in interviews and ask the managers what kind of culture is here. I mean, it's kind of bullshit, to be honest with you, because your manager can make your culture. I mean, that to me, you could work for a company that has the culture, the reputation of being very nice and accommodating and very supportive. You could have a horrible manager that changes all that. And you'll be like, I don't get that feeling. I get no support. My manager is a micromanager, and it could suck. And then vice versa. You could talk to reps that say, don't work at that company. That place sucks. They don't treat their reps right. And you're like, what are you talking about? My manager is awesome. They've always been great to me. But a lot of times your manager, it can really make or break your experiences there. You could have a great manager that can help accelerate your performance and your overall ability. And then you could have other managers that are poor managers and they can totally destroy you. I mean, I used to have a manager that, I had a ton of great managers. I've only had one or two that were, in my opinion, that were awful. But I remember working with one, and James, you'll appreciate this because it's a Yankee reference. And she literally did beat me up on a lot of these, they're called CPRs, coaching progress reports. And I would always debate her after the calls because I disagreed with some of my rankings. And she just always had it out to get me. And I'm like, well, you're always focusing after a call on the one or two negatives out of our day, as opposed to the 50 good things that happen. And I go, at the time, this is when A-Rod was on the Yankees. And I said, if I have a player for you who's, not the best third baseman and in the playoff time, he doesn't show up. And he's not the best in the field. In the playoff time, he doesn't show up. You're going to say, why the hell would I want this guy? No, I want someone that does show up in the playoffs. So, of course, we want the perfect candidate. But it was at the time, A-Rod was an MVP. He was the MVP. I forgot what year it was in the 2000s.
Probably 07.
Yeah, 07, 06. and he was best player in baseball, but he wasn't perfect. So if you constantly focus on his negatives, of course, yeah, he's going to sound like he's a shitty baseball player. But when you look at the overall picture, he was outstanding. He was one of the best. And it's the same thing with this manager. So she would always focus on the negatives, and she did this with everyone on the team where nobody liked working with her, and it made it very difficult. So I'm not to sit here and say that, during an interview process, you're going to be able to pinpoint what a bad manager is or not, but just be cognizant of that managers really do play a big impact on the day-to-day, experiences that you have out there, because they're all different too. They all have different backgrounds, different experiences, different skill level. Some will be great coaches. Some are player coaches, which can be great too, but sometimes they take over and they don't really coach too often. They're just taking over the call and you're not really learning. And then there's managers that the best for me, they gave honest feedback, constructive criticism. When you needed them, they were there, but they didn't, hover over you and micromanage you with everything you did. They still gave you your trust to go out there and make things happen. But when you had a problem, you could always reach out and they'll be there to support you. So, guys, we're going to pause here because I know we only have a few minutes. But James, any questions from the crowd?
Yeah, we got a couple. Stephen Pope said he had a manager that got kicked out of a pharmacy, or got him kicked out of a pharmacy. Embarrassing.
I would love to hear that story, Steven, if you want to, contact me offline, because I know that feeling, man. It sucks, especially when you're busting your ass and you're doing a great job with your customers, and then this individual comes in 1 or 2 days and then just totally, puts the kibosh on that. It's a nightmare.
I got Kayla Reinhart. Joe, when did you stop feeling like an outsider in the OR?
When did I stop feeling like an outsider in the OR? I mean, it takes time, guys. I mean, but it's a great question. There wasn't like a moment that I felt like I was a complete outsider to then all of a sudden I felt comfortable. Each account is different, but what I will say, the better you can support everyone in that operating room, show up early, which you're going to do, not just to get your own equipment set up, but to speak to the staff. If you're going to work with nursing staff and anesthesiologists, whoever else is in that room, of course, the doctor too, first and foremost, but don't forget about the rest of the staff. The more that you can find out, did they ever do this procedure before? Excuse me. Have they ever used your product? What challenges do they normally face? What could you do to make their life easier? Simply ask that question, guys. And the more that you do that, you can have one case and do everything right with that staff and automatically, instantly feel like you're a part of the team. And then there could be others that it just takes a little longer, that sometimes you could be there for months and you still feel like you're an outsider. It's okay too, guys. There is no simple answer, but I can tell you this: the more that you focus on each individual in that operating room and find out what their needs are and make their lives, whatever you could do to make everyone's life easier. And that's when you're going to feel like a real team player. That's when they're going to make you feel like you're a part of that hospital or that hospital OR staff. And that's when the job gets really fun, because, you're there. Everyone's there to help each other. And you really do. They make you feel like you're a part of the team. But again, for everyone, it's different, but show that support to everyone and you'll get there quicker.
Days Nuwasu. How much does the reputation of the rep before you affect whether accounts will even take your call?
I mean, it could definitely have a big impact, good and bad. So, everyone always thinks about the negatives of a horrible rep that came in there and really screwed everything up. Guys, of course, that's not ideal, but it doesn't mean that you're automatically, you're shit out of luck and that territory will never recover. It could take, a couple of calls, where you can build back up whatever trust was lost. Start figuring out what that person did letting them know you're not them. That's why the company hired you, was to fix this problem, because you're not that previous individual. And it takes time. You got to go in there and you got to provide value. They're going to be skeptical. But the more that previous rep screwed stuff up because he wasn't on time, he did this wrong, he did that wrong, and the more that you are on time, the more that you are reliable and you are doing the right things, you're going to be able to erase those negative thoughts of the previous rep and be able to really build the trust for yourself and build good relationships and start getting their business. Because also, guys, the flip side is you could take over a great territory where the previous rep did nothing but good and walk into a good spot too.
We got Sophia Anchetta. Is it a red flag if a company won't share the current reps numbers for the territory you're interviewing for?
No, that's not a red flag. They'll do that a lot. I think that the key, though, when you are in the interview process, you should always be asking for that. You should always be trying to reach out to as many reps as possible, but definitely the high performers. Who are the ones that they feel are doing really well, doing a lot of the right things. You always want to speak to those individuals. Sometimes during the interview process, they'll keep that a little bit closer to the vest, those numbers. Sometimes they will allow you to speak to them. I will tell you this, that if they do say, yes, here's so-and-so's number, they share that with you, I'd like for you to reach out to them, that's typically a very good sign that that interview went well, and they could potentially move you forward, into deeper into the interview process and potentially give you a job offer. But that's always a good sign when they offer that. But just because they don't think that you're, that's a red flag, because they also could be testing you guys. And realize that if they didn't give you the number, there's other ways to get that rep's number. They might see if you're going to reach out to them on LinkedIn and try to get that information, or contact another rep to find out that information, because they're always testing you in the interview process, because that's what's happening in the job. Doctors always aren't going to give you information. Staff is always going to give you the information you want. You need to go out there and get it. So it's not going to be easy. So sometimes they could be testing you to see if you find alternate routes to get there. So don't look at it as an automatic negative.
I got I think one more for you, Joe. Sunji Jadhav 77.
Okay.
Is it a mistake to take the first offer you get just to get in the door?
It depends. So I don't think it's a mistake if you take the first offer just to get in the door. Because to be honest with you guys, when you're trying to break into this industry and you don't have the experience, the old saying, beggars can't be choosers. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but you want to break in, because it does get easier after you break in future roles, because now you do have experience. Now they can't hang that over your head and use that as an excuse, as a smokescreen every time. Now you could start learning this business. It may not be the best role in the world. And, another shocker, guys, big secret. Most of your jobs when you break into this industry is not going to be your dream medical sales job. A lot of reps love what they do and they're very happy. That first job may not be the most glamorous job. So sometimes you got to do whatever it takes to break in, and build your skills before you move on to those, those better, more profitable, higher paying, just better overall roles. So I don't think that's a mistake. I still think you should do your due diligence and look up, a lot of the aspects of the role where you're not walking into a complete horror show. But you should be learning that by speaking to other reps during the interview process. But to break in, I mean, sometimes you gotta take those roles that aren't the best to get the experience.
That's all I got today, Joe.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you again, James, even though you screwed up the first 10 minutes of the show because the technical support was horrible.
I was horrified by your haircut, dude. I couldn't focus.
I think you were doing everyone a favor by pretending that there were problems just not to start the show. But thank you, honestly, buddy. Thank you again. Thank you,
Of course.
guys. Again, apologize for the shorter show today and for the technical difficulties. It actually was my fault on my end, but uh, I don't want
Joe's
to
got
admit
to. He's got to blame somebody. Can't
that.
never be his fault.
But thank you guys again. A lot of great questions. At the end of the day, guys, just realize that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, with these roles. You're going to get in once you get the job. That's only the beginning. And it feels like, again, that you just overcame the biggest obstacle in the world and you should celebrate. But now the real work begins. And there's a lot of challenges, a lot of things that they're going to throw at you, a lot of unexpected, obstacles that come your way, but it's part of the job. If you need support and you feel like you're not getting that from your manager, you just feel uncomfortable and you want to reach out to someone to help you build your skills and get there, that's what I'm here for, guys. I work with people all around the country to do this because that's part of what we do. We don't only help people break in, but we help them advance in their careers. So always reach out, go to reppath.com or shoot me a DM and I'll be able to help you to get wherever you need to be. We're going to be doing these every Monday and Wednesday, guys. Make sure you're joining us 3 p.m. so you can keep honing those skills, because on these podcasts, people are learning from these every day. So make sure you're staying tuned to this. If you can't work with me, these are great options too. Go to the RepPath Academy on my YouTube channel and subscribe to learn more there. And as always, guys, any of you that are looking to get any of our services, whether it's the Academy or just one-on-one coaching, please make sure you submit the code. If you're a lobby member, submit the passcode Licata, which you can see right there on the bottom of the screen, so you could get additional discounts. Other than that, guys, thank you again. Have a great week, and I'll see you guys all on Wednesday. Take care.